Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card. So today's pick a card, we're doing an astrology based reading, but not one based on what's going on right now at the time I'm filming in terms of major transits. I'm looking actually more at how astrological energies operate for you, possibly across your life, but certainly what you're attuned to right now. And the basis of that, what I'm getting at, is that one of the things I found from having grown up in a family of astrologers and having had my chart and seen my family's charts looked at with a fine-tooth comb over many years is that you really need to get to know your chart and know how different planetary energies operate for you, because the general belief about Jupiter, for instance, is that it is benefic and it's lucky, and the general belief about Saturn is that it, might give you structure or whatever, but it's limiting and it can be depressing and slow everything down, and Venus is love and blah, blah, blah. But what I found is that it really depends on how you operate with those energies. A bit like if you were in the pantheon of the Greek gods that they were named after, some would favour you and some wouldn't. And so you're more or less likely to see, as a general rule, either the positive or negative aspect of every planet, because every planet has both positive and negative, depending upon whether you're favoured in a way by that energy. So given that, I know, for instance, that Saturn actually works really well for me most of the time, and it's partly probably why I like structure. But it does depend. If it's in a difficult transit with Mars, then it will give me problems like backache or whatever. But generally speaking, it operates well. Venus, which everybody thinks is love and luck and beauty and so forth, doesn't work that well for me. It actually is often a place of constraint or difficulty. Now, again, it doesn't always happen, but it is a more equivocal planet for me compared to what people generally think. And I've seen that with others. I'm not atypical. It just depends on how it operates. So that's kind of what we're doing here. We're starting with using the Celestial Bodies Oracle. Started by sort of like saying to Spirit, I'm going to deal out till I get the first three planets for the pile choice here, and that will tell us something about a planet that is important that you're attuned to, and how that sort of operates for you. There are a couple of cards also from the deck, which can sometimes be other planets. It can be types of transits, which might tell us whether your relationship with the core planet is usually easy or not. And there's also things like numerology and everything. So we're going to start with an overall picture about that to look at the astrology energies you're attuned to and how at the moment, and possibly over a reasonable period of time. And then we'll just explore it in a bit more detail to see how it's playing out in your life at the moment. So that's the idea. It's to give that sort of a sense. So bear that in mind. If you know your chart well and you're choosing a planet, you might know one that always seems to be lucky or good for you and you want to look at that, or the opposite and you want to look at that. But otherwise, just go with whatever your instincts tell you. And if you want to go to more than one, you certainly can, because you could actually, all three of these potentially could be planets for some of you that are particularly important, you're particularly attuned to at the moment or long term. So you do you. When you know which one, I've got the timestamps in the description box below, but just for the choice, for pile number 1, we've got Neptune. For pile number 2, we've got the Moon. And for pile number 3, we've got Venus. I'll see you at your reading. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So you come to the reading with Neptune. So what that tells me is that the planet Neptune has some particular attunement to you, either normally, it might be a pattern that you've seen for a long time, or you felt very drawn to Neptune, or it might be something that's very important at the moment. And it may be actually the latter more than the former, given the other cards here, though if you do feel very strongly attuned to Neptune full stop, then don't feel that that's wrong. But there is a timing element here with a moon cycle card, which makes me feel like it may be pointing in this reading that we're talking about an attunement that's important right now for various reasons. Neptune is at its best a planet of the ideal, of the spiritual, of the psychic, of almost, what happens in the liminal space, all of those sort of things. And so it does give us an incredibly aspirational energy. And as I say, a kind of connection to other realms, other dimensions, those sort of things. You're likely to be very psychic if you are normally attuned to Neptune, and you're probably aware of it if you are attuned to Neptune. Or it may be that at points where you make very significant decisions, particularly philosophical, belief-related, things that are emotionally and philosophically important, Neptune may become very much the guiding planet for you because of the other cards here. But Neptune is also the planet of confusion, of illusion, of delusion. It may be sometimes hard for you to be sure what is true and what is not true. It may be it is a planet of almost glamour magic, and you may be in a sense very beguiling, or you may find it easy to be beguiled with Neptune. So, and it can be, as I say, confusing. So the issue here is, are we dealing with illusion or delusion? But I feel like either, if this happens with you all the time, if that's a very big thing, like if you feel that you are almost conflicted between what your rational mind is telling you and what your intuitive mind is telling you when you have big decisions, I think that this is saying this is a longer term thing with you, and this is showing you the time in a way that it occurs. If that's not normal for you, but you are facing a real choice at the moment, which is, and you don't know what to believe, you don't know who to believe, you don't know what to believe, you don't know what are the implications and consequences of one choice or the other, what is light and shadow, then that would be very much connecting with this. And this might tell us something about the focus point that's helpful for you, because you are connected here with the last quarter moon. The last quarter moon is literally where it's sort of halfway full and halfway not full, like new moon. It's like it literally is the light and the dark, as you can see. And so this is a point where we do look at light and shadow. We do look at choices, philosophical choices. A little bit like getting the death card in tarot, in as much as that there's a transition or a changing energy here. Things can be very black and white, or things with Neptune might not be black and white enough for you to be sure. So this could say either at any stage when you are looking at things and you feel as though some things are hidden and some things are obvious, where there could be propaganda or something like that around you, or people could be not being honest, whether deliberately or they're not honest with themselves, Neptune will become a very powerful planet for you. It will probably call upon you to use your psychic intuitive abilities more, but you will feel the need, I think, to have the rational as well. And the best way to deal with it on that level is almost to do a pro and con type list, like to make it as clear as that for yourself, because Neptune calls for clarity, because that's where its potential weakness is. If you have clarity, you can then exalt what works well for it, which is then finding the ideal, the balanced, whatever it is you want. Cancer here is interesting. This is probably particularly going to occur around family, around the things that you want to protect, and anything emotional that you are protecting. Cancer holds its body a bit like we hold our heart. We hold our heart within a rib cage. It protects us. Cancer, its whole body, the crab's whole body is within that very hard shell. So there is a sense here of this whole process of trying to balance out what the truth is a protective mechanism for yourself and for others. It may particularly play out in the fourth house matters, because Cancer rules the fourth house. The fourth house is all about who we are at our core. In fact, I would say, really, if you want to know who you really are at your core, look at the sign that's on your fourth house cusp, more than you look at your ascendant, which is just the way you present yourself to the world, or your sun sign, which you are generally developing into over your life. Who you are at the fourth house cusp is who you are at home, who you are at your core. So this is very much going to be triggered for you when decisions that are not clear and you're trying to weigh up and work out what the ideal outcome is really affect your sense of self deeply, or your sense of family, tradition, connection, that kind of thing. So you are very attuned to your core journey, and the core journey maybe of your family, your ancestral line, that kind of thing. And Neptune is a very powerful energy for you with that, but it is an energy that requires you to be almost dispassionate, to not ignore Neptune's information and all the sort of intuitive, but to also look at the rational. So let's have a look with tarot to get a little bit more of an idea around this dominant energy, like Neptune, that kind of thing. What is the truth, both spiritually and rationally? And how do we use that to protect that which is most precious is kind of the key message here. So we're going to look at how they all work together. Then we're going to get 3 cards for each for a little bit more information about how each aspect works individually. And then we'll have a look at the material aspects, like what is really playing out right now. So firstly, just a line to tell us a little bit about how this kind of comes together beyond what I've said already. So we have the death card. See, it is a bit like that kind of energy of like the choice card or whatever, reversed. Hierophant upright, Six of Swords reversed, the Queen of Pentacles reversed, the Seven of Pentacles. Yeah, okay. So for a start, this probably primarily kicks in around material things that have, this is why Cancer is so important here. It's around what would you commit to and what do you want to see grow and what do you want to nurture, a family, a relationship, as I say, your ancestral line, or that which is precious to you. And it's interesting those cards sort of fell roughly where the Cancer card is. So this is about what do you commit to go through the slow and steady growth. What is worth it? What is real? And what could you materially almost taste? Some of you may have Neptune in an earth sign, particularly maybe Virgo, but you don't have to. But there's a Virgoan kind of feeling around this. It's like the integration of things, so it's the integration of the intuition and the rational. And in a weird way, this is very spiritual, I think. I mean, it has a very material outcome, but it's spiritual because this integration, I mean, when you've got death reversed, I feel like that is the Neptunian energy, Scorpio there. And then the Hierophant upright feels like, because it says Taurus, practical, but it feels like the rational. The Hierophant on a spiritual level is kind of what we would see as tradition, what we write down, what are belief structures. So you go to Neptune to try and find when a change energy is around, whether to proceed with that. And it's like, what is the new energy trying to emerge with the death card reversed compared to what we rationally believe? And this happens when you're not sure of your next direction and what to commit to and what to grow. So Neptune is a guiding planet for you. And it's the one that triggers, I think, a kind of an anxiety about what is true because it matters to what matters to you, basically. So I don't think that you're someone who just naturally follows a particular spiritual line and that's it, and you just don't question any of it. In fact, it's in your nature to question it, to go, does this align with what I'm feeling spiritually? Does this feel right? Yeah, and what direction would it take me? So you look to the consequences of things as well as the immediate feeling around it. And that Neptune, I think, is very positive, therefore, for you. I feel it's less likely with these cards to be leading you astray or becoming an illusion, because I think you've already built in a system to deal with it where it matters. I guess maybe where it doesn't matter, you might go off into flights of fancy, but generally I think Neptune is a good navigator for you. Let's just get 3 cards for each. Let's start with Neptune. This is just the individual energy of how it operates for you. Page of Swords, Justice, High Priestess. Yeah, like that's it. And this is exactly what this is talking about. Receiving messages. I think many of you are probably quite telepathic. So the Neptunian energy is like that. Page of Swords always suggests telepathy to me. Justice is where you need to have a balance, weighing of the scales, and the High Priestess. So the intellect, communication and so forth with the intuition is how you find balance. Neptune is a very good planet for you. I think you would be actually very unlikely to go off the rails and believe in things that are not true. There is an inbuilt balance operating. So let's see with the last quarter. And you're particularly attuned to it right now. If there's something important to your life and what you really care about and it's not clear at the moment, you have everything you need in using that energy in that way. So the last quarter, how you would go about doing that. 3 of Cups, King of Cups reversed, Magician reversed. Okay. So this is saying that part of why that you're good at this is that you go to others. You actually have good friends. You have people that you trust. You have people who are well aligned with your heart. It could be the people that you're protecting, family, but it could be friendships as well. You don't operate in a vacuum. You don't decide, I'm getting this direct message from the universe and it's right and that's all there is to it. You actually stress test it with other people. And you look at what healing you need to do of light and shadow before you make a decision, because you're very aware with the Magician reverse that you could misread something if you don't do it. So you may well have developed this over time. When you were young, you may have been someone who was very psychic, but not necessarily very grounded. And, you would talk about things with your family or with friends and it wouldn't come out because it was kind of like more in the liminal space. You've learnt to be more grounded into the world. And you've also learnt it's possible that if you haven't worked out your own shadow, that you could in fact misread the signs. So you do a lot of work on yourself, but you kind of stress test it with friends. So I think that's very wise. Then the Cancer energy, how does that operate for you? We have the Ten of Cups reversed. Oh, that's interesting. The Queen of Wands reversed. And the Knight of Wands reversed. Okay. I feel for many of you with that and this going there, many of you are actually finding your true family through friendship and through spirituality rather than through your birth family. Now, it doesn't have to be the case. If you have a very strong connection with your birth family, that's fine. But this does feel as though some disappointments or heartache around that and some lack of being able to be yourself fully or pursue your passions and your beliefs and so forth have made you more protective. So I think most who have come to this, I think you were probably incredibly intuitive, incredibly wise when you were very young, and it was maybe not understood in your family. That doesn't necessarily mean that you are estranged from your family, but I feel that you would not necessarily go to your family, your birth family, or your ancestral line per se, to get the answers, because there's something that is, whether it's competitive or it probably is a bit competitive there. It's like you go more for friends who work in harmony together. Those that you know, if you were asking for how does this feel, that they would actually be honest with you. And that's been a very healing thing for you, because somewhere along the line, connected probably to family or early education maybe, there was something that wasn't quite right. But that's been part of what's made you know you have to have that care. It's sort of one of those things where sometimes the challenges we have when we're very young are actually the thing that gives us the precision as we get older. So let's just get 4 cards for the material outcome of this right now, in the way that Neptune's operating for you. 3 of Swords reversed, 3 of Pentacles. Oh, yeah. Empress. Ace of Swords. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's really just confirming this. You've separated out from something, whether it's your birth family or those that had some sort of early control over how you saw yourself and how you interpreted what came through. You found better people. You've left those that were painful. You found people who will work with you on that, or you're going to. This could be a sign that's exactly what's happening now. You're actually using your discernment to find the people who are kind of your soul family and so forth. There is a lot of abundance that's meant to come through having a different way of thinking. And your capacity to think, your capacity to quickly move with a new idea through this process. It's almost like you have a process. You almost like you have a I don't know, a framework that you could actually put new ideas through so that you get to fruition very quickly because of that, but also because you have a good discernment in finding the right people. So it's like, and I think that people are drawn to you because you are discerning and because you are loyal, and you are going to go towards being in a team rather than in a competition. You understand the importance of that and managing your own shadow. So that's very positive for Neptune as well. So what we're also going to look at is secondary energy. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to use a deck with planetary pairings. If we get Neptune again, then it is that whatever other planet we get, when it aspects, that's very, very important. If we get other planets, then they're just other planets that are important. Whether they're aspecting Neptune or not, they're kind of a secondary level. So the first one is Moon and Uranus. Well, that sort of makes sense in a way, because this new idea and the change energy that comes with that and thinking differently, and like Neptune and the Moon, I think when working very well together, and I think because your Neptune works well, I suspect this would operate well, particularly with like the Ace of Swords being a bit like Uranus. That again would be showing a lot of kind of psychic downloads. And what about a second pairing? Mars and Jupiter. Okay, this is, okay. At its best, this allows you to have that framework and move forward and expand with the Empress towards great outcomes and take action that is very well targeted. At its worst, it could be picking up that part of this has been developed as a result of too much competition operating. So let's try and get a sense about what that is going to mean, like how these operate. So both your main area, each one of those 3, and then the 2 astro oracle additions. So firstly, again, in this main thing, we're going to use the personal predictions deck and see what your capacity to work very well with Neptune, very discerning way with Neptune, is meant to bring you in terms of personal fortune in the near future. Renewed passion. So that could connect to that if that's operating well. Tension escalates. Okay, but this is a tense process. In a way, it is a tense process. That's not necessarily bad for you. And like if new ideas are coming through with Uranian energy, that could be tense, but you could find yourself sometimes having to sort of separate out from the energy that's not aligned with you and find that which is. And it might be a process you have to do. You might find quite often when you're doing something, you head towards people to do it with, and eventually it sorts itself out through this process to know who are the right people to move forward with. And discontent loss. Okay, so actually this is telling me why this occurred. It's not like, and I think it's showing you a process that you can avoid by using it. The renewed passion can like go away from that. The Neptune might have been, as I say, like kind of just wanting to go with all the grand ideas, but not necessarily having the right people to connect with. You have developed this framework so that you don't end up there. So it's definitely come from something where you weren't, when there was tension and discontent and you didn't get to win, but you are meant to move in towards winning now. So it's talking more about a pattern. So this is saying it is a longer term pattern. I wondered whether it was actually shorter term. It could well be that there's something right now going on, but this is a longer term pattern for you. It's one that you've learnt as a result of experiences when you were young. What about Moon and Uranus? So I think this is the kind of sense of inspiration coming through, that kind of thing. How is that playing out for you at the moment? Change is coming. Yeah, you sense it, you know. Be open to receive. So you can't just shut that down. You know, like what could have happened if you hadn't developed this with Neptune is you could say, I'm not going to trust anything spiritual. You might have like cut the whole thing off. You know, it's all got to be rational and that's it. But this is being open to receive on the emotional and spiritual level. And it goes in your favor. Yeah, so that's good. So Moon and Uranus in general work well for you as well. So Neptune, Moon and Uranus in general work well for you, particularly now that you've worked out how to process the information they're bringing you. What about Mars and Jupiter? Is that working well? It could be. Or is it showing a bit more about why this occurs that you need to always be aware of? Completing a cycle. Okay. So that is kind of Jupiterian and Empress. It could be saying that you know, like almost the proof is in the pudding. You know, it's like you actually see the truth of what you've done and what you're getting out of this system when you complete a cycle and you see it all the way through. It gives you the stamina to keep going. And like certainly Mars would give you the stamina. Rest and relax. Yeah, actually I think it's saying that now this energy is working for you. Gives you the stamina to get through and then have the reward of Jupiter. And luck is on your side. Yeah, Jupiter is lucky. So in your chart, as I say, the dominant energy that you're really working well with is Neptune because you are connecting the liminal and the logical. You learn how to do that because in the early stages of your life it was a problem, but now it works really well and you can really process energy really well. You can get the stamina and the belief and then you can like say, I know this is going to work out, and you can relax and enjoy the reward. So this is a very positive reading actually, but I think it came out of tension and it's how you used it. You used it really, really well. Okay, so to finish off, I just want you to choose a number between 1 and 3 because we're just going to get a wild card energy for anything else that is operating in how this astrology is working for you. So depending upon which number you choose, we're just going to use a card from the Blue Dragonfly. If you need to, pause the video because I'm about to deal them out. So for number 1, genetic eyeliner, fearless courage, inner strength, incentive. Oh, that's interesting. For number 2, inner beauty. And for number 3, the universe. Okay, well, all right. So if you chose number 1, it's particularly pointing to the fact that I think you were different to your birth family, or to those, if it's not your birth family, it's to those who were in your early sort of like life, early authority figures, early teachers, that kind of thing. So this way you've worked with Neptune this is almost like a bit like the glamour magic side of it. You've worked out how to present yourself to make sure that you can have the courage and the strength and so forth and the incentive to move forward. This is very much about you becoming you. By understanding yourself really well, you then make more discerning choices. Not dissimilarly with, if you chose number 2 with inner beauty, self-love, romantic feelings, falling in love. For some of you, this might be coming up because you've either just met someone and you're wondering, or you're about to meet someone. I would say it's very well favoured, actually. And I would say that you're in a good position. Now, if you aren't looking for love at the moment, this is just about, again, the journey from where you maybe weren't recognised to where you will find the people who do recognise you. If you chose number 3, the universe, highest ideal, unconditional love, universal connection, blind faith, you don't have the blind faith. I think this is your guard against the blind faith, which could come with Neptune. So I think this is connecting you to a bigger canvas. This is saying for those who chose number 3, there's sort of something that has a broader reach than just the personal with this, spiritually or materially or a bit of both. So I hope that that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So you came to the moon, which to me suggests a couple of things. Firstly, that the moon moves very quickly. It's probably, I think it is the fastest moving planet in the zodiac. So it is very changeable. It's very liminal. It's very emotional. It's very psychic. Things move quickly with the moon. The impact of the moon is almost like a light touch, but a deep touch, if that makes sense. So the moon may be conjunct your sun one day, and that day there's a deep energy of the moon's sort of spiritual aspects and emotional aspects on something to do with your life path with the sun, but a couple of days later and it's moving out of orb. So it's a deep but short message from the universe in some ways, the moon. It's also, I think, why it's seen as so magical, because its timing is so important, and we look at the phases of the moon and so forth, both astrologically and also in various forms of magic and spirituality. So I feel like this is a very spiritual group, but I feel also a group that has a broad reach and as I say, a deep but light touch on the earth, if that makes sense. And this is all about connection. The moon for you is very much about connection and relationship, because the 2 cards that came with it, we got the 7th house, which is all about relationships, the type of relationships that you have, what you would want from relationships. And then we have stellium, which suggests more than one planet. So it would suggest the moon for some of you may be in a stellium in your chart. And what that means is, 2 or 3 other planets around it, close in degree and in the same sign. So you could well have it as part of that. And that would mean in your own chart, where the moon really activates, it activates those, and maybe particularly focused on those sort of energies in your relationships with others. So say, your moon was in a stellium with Mars and Venus, this would be very much about romantic love and that kind of thing. If it was in a stellium with Pluto and Uranus, it would be all about the changes, like change energy and how that emotionally impacts relationships and so forth. You don't have to have it in a stellium, but it's quite possible if you've come to this reading. If not, it is, other planets will be very important with this, and we are going to be looking at some other planets, so I would almost see them like having a stellium with the moon when I look at that part of the reading. Or it is about how we collect together with others. And in that bit, I think it would be tilting more to groups of people with a stellium rather than, if we had conjunction here or something like that with the 7th house, I'd say this is very much about love and the one, the partner or whatever. But I think it's about with groups of people potentially. So when the moon is operating well, it brings everybody together. I guess if the moon is challenging, it may be in finding your people and finding the relationships that you feel part of. So let's get a sense with the astrology, with the tarot. So I'm going to start firstly with a line that just looks at the energy overall of this together. Then we're going to get 3 cards for each of these to just see a little bit more about what's going on. And then we'll have a look at how it impacts you materially. So how are these working together, these energies? Page of Cups, the Devil reversed, Chariot, 6 of Pentacles reversed, King of Wands reversed. Okay, all right. It's definitely, the moon is very much how you decide what you want emotionally. And I mean, that kind of makes sense because the moon is about emotion, but there are other planets that can impact that. Things like Venus, for instance, to some degree, your sun also impacts what your heart wants and so forth. But this is a heart-based thing. Your moon is a very heart-based energy for you. But you have a wish for connection, but freedom as well. And there is a possibility here with the King of Wands reverse and the Devil reverse that you have a natural tendency to merge with others emotionally. It would be probably more of the point if this was Neptune and stellium. So the moon is a little bit less likely to do that, partly because it moves so quickly, whereas Neptune kind of goes slow and hunkers down, so to speak. But you do have a tendency to merge with others, and relationships emotionally you merge with others. There is a risk sometimes with that of needing to free yourself from those that would take advantage of that or who try to dominate or something like that. This might be a pattern you have to deal with. The moon works well with you when people are equally open-hearted, but where you are drawn into groups where there is competition, it's harder for you because it is such a deep thing and it's such an emotional thing. You're meant to find key people, definitely with the Chariot. And when you are with the right people, you move forward very, very quickly. One of the key things around it is people who are equals to you. And like, this is why the competition is an issue. So it's like, for you, the best thing to be open-hearted with what you want to do, whether it's a love relationship or groups. But I do think for most of you, the moon is actually talking more about groups than anything, at least at the moment. It may talk about something else at other stages in your life. This is a very clear indication that you have a tendency to connect very emotionally with groups of people and with relationships in general, and they are part of your destiny. But the way to make them work is to do it with equals. So don't put someone on a pedestal because they could end up controlling you. Equally, don't try and control others because they won't stay with you and there'll be tension. So this is finding your equals. And that, I mean, Six of Pentacles reverse, I always say this in private readings. If I see that in a relationship reading, I think it's one of the best cards you could see, because to me it is where there isn't equality. When you have inequality in emotionally based relationships, there's always a tension. So I think this is showing that you know that, which is good, but maybe because you've experienced the opposite. And it might be that one of the messages here for you, because the moon does move so quickly, is not to quickly emotionally attach to groups, to wait and discern what to do. So let's see with each of them. Let's have a look with the moon. What else does the moon do in your, how else are you attuned to the moon, pile 2? Two of Cups. Oh, yeah, and this is particularly when you fall in love. Four of Swords. Seven of Swords. Okay, I think you felt burnt in love, so you've withdrawn a bit from it and you don't entirely trust it. So this is mainly about connecting with others, but it has had that kind of effect. I think this could be pointing to a relationship where there was some sort of competition or dominance. But it's still there. Your moon is still able to do it. I think it's also saying that it would work best not by sort of not being in groups. You're actually most likely to meet love through the groups and the teams and the friendship circles that you have. Like, it's not going to work that well for you, I would say. The moon isn't operating that well if you're just swiping on a Tinder thing, to be honest. It's much more about getting out with people. So let's see the stellium energy. Four of Pentacles reversed. Two of Pentacles. Hanged Man reversed. Yeah, I think that most of the people who've come here, you've been a bit burnt emotionally, either by a group that was competition or in love in some way. This is saying that it's almost like groups of three at the most is good. 2 to 3 people coming in, so a group of 3 including you, or maybe 3 plus you. Because 4, it's almost like it's saying that for you, the more people get involved, the harder it is to understand all the perspectives with the Hangman reversed. And so and it's almost like you're always feeling like you have to pick sides or choose. So small groups is the good thing for you. I think that many of you might be innately a bit shy, so big parties are not the place to find love or find connection. It's more like small groups is how it works best for you. And then with 7th house, we have the Fool reversed, Strength, Knight of Pentacles. Oh, beautiful. So if you did get a bit burnt in love and you sort of separated out, this is saying small groups of people are a good way to find something. You're actually meant you're wise now, you know what to do now. You won't get burnt again like that. You won't get fooled again. This is going to be, relationships are now becoming a real strength for you, and you're going to be able to find those that you can commit to. So it's been a process of developing discernment by maybe being too emotionally available for a while, and now you're recalibrating your moon energy, and you're deciding it's only going to be shared with those that are worth it, and therefore you are moving into a much better cycle around the relationships around you. So let's see how that works out materially for you. Knight of Cups reversed, King of Pentacles reversed, Ace of Cups. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Pretty clear. I think for most of you, I mean, some of you are going to be happy in love and it's not an issue and it's all sorted out and you've already gone through that and you've found your person. But if that's not the case, then you are not going to repeat patterns of like relationship energy and romantic energy that was not true. You're actually going towards something new that you can commit to. This is the getting wisdom. That's what this is talking about. And if you are already happy about that, then if you have had kind of what appeared to be offers from others, in groups or whatever that weren't real, you're also moving away from that towards those sort of things that you can commit to. In fact, there's a big energy of commitment coming after changing old patterns that didn't work. Okay, so as I said, we're also going to look at another couple of planetary pairings. Now, if the moon comes up in any of these, it's showing that there's a particular sensitivity of the moon for you when that other planet is in aspect in some way. If they are different planets, then they might be ones that at various points in time could work in a stellium energy for you. So we'll just see what we get. So we're going to pull two cards. Firstly, we have Mercury and Chiron. And secondly, we have, that's interesting, this came up for one of the others, Mars and Jupiter. So some of you may have come to a couple. Mercury and Chiron, so they in a stellium with the moon, if you had those close together, would show that you have a deep emotional ability to diagnose and help people in some form of healing. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be traditional healing or medicine, though it could be. You have a real sense of understanding and being able to articulate that, and you have a healing energy on others. So that works well for you. I think it's also use your discernment with the communication and how people respond to that to know whether you're dealing with people who are trying to be controlling or people who are appreciative of what you do. If you had Mars and Jupiter with the moon, then relationships with men, it's interesting with the King of Wands. When it's difficult, it'll be really difficult. Like when you are dealing with male energy, whether it's in someone who is a male or it's just the male side of someone, when it's working well, it'll work very, very well. When it's working in competition, it's going to be over the top. So you need to be aware of that. And it may, if you did say have those in a stellium, it would probably depend on what else was aspecting it. But it's sort of saying that your emotional energy, it kind of like is put on steroids around male energy. And so you need to be aware. Sometimes that works very well. Sometimes it's challenging. Okay, let's see personal prediction energy around it. Let's do 3 cards for the combined beginning that we talked about, and then 3 cards for each of these additional astrological inputs. So around the moon stellium 7th house in general, mental struggle. Yeah, it's caused, there has been some mental struggle around this, and there may continue to be. You might, because the moon tends to sort of like, also the moon is reflected light of the sun, so you may sometimes just naturally go with what the group says until you work out what you believe. So I'd like think about that. Don't get too invested in people or groups until you know. We have improved situation is getting better though. So because you've kind of realised and this fits with this. You've kind of had the aha moment and affected by external. But to some degree, you do get affected by the external sort of thing. So sometimes, like external events will bring the right people in, or external events may bring in people you have to be careful of. So then that's where your kind of healing energy, but also your diagnostic and your analytical energy is so important. So how would that play out? Renewed passion. So I think if you feel that you're healing, you can heal others, you have a passionate energy to it. happiness, high vibe. Okay, so there's a lot of healing and so forth that can come with that. Mercury and Chiron are a helpful energy for you. And friendship and company. Okay, so you probably will find that if you have like good aspects between your Chiron or your Mercury and other people's charts, if you know that, they will have a particularly strong connection with them, and a particularly good emotional one. But if you apply a healing aspect to yourself and to others from a kind of a little bit detached communication level, it's going to get better. And then this one, as I say, is both the potential, great love and so forth coming through, whether it's male or female, like just in divine masculine and feminine, or it is an issue around masculine energy that you have to manage. So what do we get there? Expect miracles. Okay, so if it's been difficult before, it's going to get better. Making progress. Yeah, okay, this is good. It's saying whatever was the difficulty, it's actually you're shifting out of it big time, pole 2. But there are still some challenges yet. Yeah, because this is the thing. It's like inevitably you're going to come across people who are competitive. And for you, emotionally, because you connect so much with people, you're going to feel that more than most. So you need to know how to kind of cut that off at the pass sooner rather than later. Okay, so to finish off, I'm just going to ask you to think of a number between 1 and 3, and we're just going to get a wild card from the Blue Dragonfly deck. So if you don't know what your number is yet, pause. Otherwise, and you can unpause and then see what it is, because I'm about to deal it out. So for number 1, we have Divine Masculine. Yeah, it's particularly what I've just been banging on about, pile 2. For number 2, we have the Messenger. Oh, that connects to the Mercury there. And for number 3, we have I Am at Peace. Oh, lovely. Okay, so of all the people who have come to this reading, the one where this whole energy about how you deal with masculine energy, whether it's your own masculine energy or somebody else's, is going to be particularly important in this. And protecting the moon, which is a more feminine feeling energy in that, and like making sure you have the quality connections. Talks about control, leadership and determination. I think this is about you understanding how to lead out on your own emotional choices and your choices about who to connect with. If you chose number 2, the Messenger, need to talk, speed, communication, it says that the key is Mercury here. When you are unsure emotionally about who to connect with, the most healing and useful way to deal with that is to talk to people and see what they believe. It will give you the information you need to make wise decisions. Don't just jump in thinking the best, because sometimes you're going to get this sort of like mega competitive type. It's really talk to them and find out who they are. If you chose number 3, I am at peace, feeling at home, finding serenity, being with myself, I think this is showing that you are at peace within yourself. You know what you want now and you'll make the best decisions. And it definitely fits with the overall trend of this, which is things are getting a lot better. So I think overall the moon actually works really well for you, but because it is, as I say, it's a light touch but a deep touch, you actually have to learn what that energy is and how to be discerning. I think that you have. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your readings. Sorry, I'll just get the camera a little bit better. So you came to the reading with Venus, which is funny because, as I said in the introduction, Venus is a planet that I have a bit of an equivocal relationship with in my chart. So I sort of, almost looking at these cards, I could almost think this is going to be a reading I have to pay attention to as well. But this is about you, not me, so I won't dwell on that. But Venus is the planet of beauty, love, the feminine, all of those sorts of things. So this is saying that Venus works strongly with you. You're attuned to it. At its best, it will bring things like love, beauty, femininity, all those sort of like lovely sort of energy, self-love, love of others, beauty. Could be, you have a very beautiful speaking voice, you look very beautiful, you might have a beautiful singing voice. There's various things that Venus can do that's very positive. But equally with Venus, it can be difficult. If it is working in a difficult way, it could put challenges in the way of love, put challenges in the way of, relationships with women and that kind of thing. So it just depends. It could have, in some aspects in charts, if Venus is not well aspected, it could be some difficulty with, or a mother wound or something like that. So it just depends on how it plays out. What is interesting here is it is a bit challenging. The thing that is striking about this, we have 5 and we have square. So 5, if we were looking at in the tarot, is often number of tension and minor level conflict. It's not usually major level, but it's where we have to make decisions about what to fight for and what to move away from. If we have the 5 of Wands, it's usually sort of like kind of bickering. If we have the 5 of Swords, it's like what is worth the battle and what isn't. If we have the 5 of Cups, it's what can we move forward with after a disappointment. And if we have the 5 of Pentacles, it's where we don't feel connected or we don't feel the world is resourcing us and what do we need to do to fix that situation. 5 numerologically is a number of change and a number of travel and a number of freedom. So either of those things could be playing out here. It could be that you sometimes feel at odds with others in terms of what you love or what you find beautiful or your feminine side or something like that. It could also be that you are very changeable around those things. You like to change the way you look, you like to change, and there's nothing wrong with that, and freedom and so forth, but it may then be a challenge for finding love that is lasting if you have a natural instinct to be free and to not want to kind of feel this is it and this is the one and so forth. And there is some tension operating here with the square. Now, squares are an interesting aspect because they are tension. There's tension between Venus and at least one other planet probably in your chart or in this energy. And we are going to look at some other planets, so it'll be interesting. You probably presume for the most part that they are potentially planets that there is some tension with, but it's an active tension. It's a freeing tension. It's a tension that's sort of necessary. It's not as anxiety provoking as a quincux. It's an action orientating tension. So this makes me feel around Venusian things. You like change, you like travel, you like freedom, and Venus energies call you to act because it's like you don't want to stay stuck. Squares are really important in a chart. They do energize us and they do push us into doing things. I remember my brother, who's an excellent astrologer, said that, you're not that well off if you have lots of trines in your chart. You might think I'm going to be really lucky, and you might be, but the trouble is with trines is that they don't push us into doing things. You do need a certain amount of squares. Otherwise, you could have all the trines in the world, but nothing of any great note happens in your life, including luck, because there's not enough motivation. So there is a motivation here towards travel, freedom, and so forth associated with things that you would associate with Venus. So I think that there is a love nature, but it is changeable and probably even a bit mercurial. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a kind of a connection with Mercury with this sort of energy. It feels very Sagittarian too with the 5 and the square. Like there's a freedom versus commitment kind of energy. And this is on anything to do with Venus. It doesn't necessarily mean, you might be sort of someone who just loves to change the way they look and so forth. And that might be the way it plays out, in which case that's probably fairly positive. But if it's changing who you love all the time, you may not ever feel you find the one. It might not matter to you though. Depends on what's actually going on. So let's get a little bit of information just about how they work together, and then we'll have a look at each of them in turn with tarot. So what else can we learn about Venus and the kind of dynamic tension that pushes towards change, moving on, that kind of energy? Ace of Cups reversed, waxing moon, yeah, pushing forward. 4 of Wands reversed, 10 of Swords upright, 3 of Cups reversed. Yeah, like I feel as though one of the challenges for you, and it depends, it may not be a challenge. You might find it fine, actually. It depends what you want. But traditionally, when we think of Venus as love and romance and finding the one and all that kind of thing, one of the challenges might be that you find it hard to find the one. You find it hard to settle. Like, and even the concept of like a long-term relationship or a family or whatever, it seems a bit dramatic to you. It seems sort of something that causes tension and causes you to separate out. Like you're kind of like right from the start, the Ace of Cups, I'm kind of there, but I'm not all in. Pushing forward, the waxing moon, emotionally, I keep getting this sense like, like be there, but move on. The moon as a planet moves very, very fast. So it's kind of a sense of like, like looking always maybe for the one. Like you might really want the one, but you might be protecting yourself against disappointment by always looking at something else. Because with the Four of Wands reversed, it's like you're not looking at that as how do I find a happy family and that kind of thing. If you were to find the one, you would need to find someone who had the similar sort of restlessness in the world, and you maybe then played it out in a different way, doing sort of different jobs together, traveling together or whatever. There's some sort of drama that's brought this about though. So it may be that you've come from a home where you didn't have a good example of like what it would be to be in a long-term relationship, or you might have had a really significantly broken heart, maybe as a result of a betrayal from a friend or something like that with the Three of Cups reversed. So you're kind of like, I'm not going to get burnt again. I'm just going to keep moving on or whatever. This could be very much right now though. I mean, it may not be a long-term thing, and then you can maybe end up with different energies around Venus and be less about moving on and settle, because I think you do want that. But I think right now, whether it's in romantic love or it's in other connections, or even if it's about something to do with fashion and creativity in some way, you're very much your own person. And you're very protective because I think, as I say, there's been some sort of betrayal. So it's all about moving forward. So let's start with Venus and then look at the two other aspects here, how they operate. So a little bit more about how Venus is operating for you, pole 3. Two of Swords reversed. Nine of Pentacles. Boy, you're independent. Seven of Cups reversed. And you think it's the most realistic thing to be. Like with Two of Swords reversed, you think you never really have enough information to make a decision. Nine of Pentacles, you're better off on your own. Seven of Cups reversed, that's the most realistic thing. You can't really trust, emotions. They tend to be illusions, and you don't have enough information. So just kind of like look after yourself and be on your own. And that I don't think is just around romantic love. I think it's in general. I think you want to know that you have your material needs met and what you need to do. Like you want to know you're independent. Then like working at its heightened and its best, the energy about having the capacity to move on, choose and be discerning could in fact bring for you the absolute ideal love, because it could precisely be because you go, I will be sufficient in myself. Then I make the right choice. I don't want to make a choice when I need someone else. I want to be with someone in love because that's what I prefer, not that I need it. And there's a lot of wisdom in that. And it could be other things. I want to make something. I want to use Venusian qualities to make wealth for myself. So I want to just be really pragmatic about how I use that, rather than sort of like just put my heart all in one thing. I need to see what's going to be a dynamic operating with it. So let's see how 5, this sort of freedom energy and a little bit of minor conflict energy operates with Venus. 10 of Pentacles, full moon, 8 of Cups. Okay. So again, this is very equivocal. So of all of them, this is the one where it really depends on what you want, I think, to know how Venus operates for you. At its best, your searching and your preparedness to deal with the tension of 5 and square will eventually bring you something that is lasting. As I say, your harvest will come when the moon aligns with Venus and when you go, yeah, this is the right one. And your preparedness to walk away if it isn't that is good. So there is an underlying principle of I don't want to get really involved unless I'm going to get really involved and commit. So there's a lot to be said for that. The only issue being, of course, that this can't be achieved if you constantly move to the moving away too quickly. So I think it all has to do with timing and what are the criteria you're using to make those decisions. And their square might be the issue there too, because the square may sometimes make you move on earlier than you should, but other times it might be pushing you to stay long enough to work this out. Depends how the square is operating. So let's see. Fool reversed. Ace of Wands reversed. Queen of Pentacles reversed. I think you've come to this reading because it is asking you to have a look at this issue. And it's fine if this is what you want. And I don't mean to do a value judgment to say it's wrong. I'm someone who doesn't get involved in relationships. So I'm not going to say to people that you have to. But this is really saying the square tends to be, um, you have a really fine-tuned antenna for when something looks like something you've been through before, and you don't even let the passion start if you think that's the case, and you're not going to commit. Like it's harder to commit because of the square energy. So I think this is asking you to think about what is your relationship to love, beauty, that kind of creativity, whatever this is about, whether it's about committing to a particular way of presenting yourself in the world and so forth, or whether it's around romantic love or whether it's around other forms of love. But it really is asking you to have a look at that, because at the moment you're more committed to the search than to finding something. So let's see how this is playing out materially. The Devil. Yeah, you're scared of being trapped by happiness. Six of Cups. Yeah, it's got something to do with something you've seen earlier. Like, it is saying you can do this. It is saying, like Venus there, like you can work really well with this energy. But you have to deal with this energy. What does that mean to you? What would it mean to either be happy versus being trapped? What does that look like? And there is a clue in your childhood about this. So either you saw something that really made you think, wow, I'm not going to get committed like that, or you saw the ideal and you think you're never going to be able to live up to it. It is saying you can in whatever this is. And if this is some sort of creative career thing, then it's saying that, yes, you may have to kind of, sign your sort of contract and go in and do certain things that creatively or whatever, or how you self-express, have a kind of like a monetary outcome. But that's also what's going to give you the freedom to eventually truly express yourself. So it depends on how this is playing out. But I think for most of you, it is about love in some form, family love or romantic love or a bit of both. And the clue is in your childhood as to whether there's something that you almost think is impossible to live up to or something that you want to avoid. But once you work that out, then you'll make the right decision. Okay, so let's have a look at some other planets that could interact with this. So as I say, I'm going to kind of think these planets might be, one or at least of the pairings might be in square with Venus. So to get a sense about what are some of the challenging energies to Venus. If Venus comes up itself, then it's definitely in square to whatever the other planet is. But more generally, we'll just look at that, see how else this is operating with a couple of planetary pairings. So firstly, Mercury and Venus. So Venus and Mercury are definitely kind of in square for you. So we'll get to what that would mean. And then what is the second pairing? Mercury and Uranus. Okay. The very thing that is, it's a freedom thing. The thing, it is also potentially the breakthrough thing though. So if Mercury is square to Venus, then this suggests that it's what you believe and what you communicate and kind of speed and energy and inspiration that is part of what is driving this energy to keep moving forward on Venusian things. So Mercury, and it's very fast. Everything happens very fast. So there is a real issue there about the wish for new ideas, new energy and that kind of thing. Kind of just keeping you in that sort of like what's new, what's exciting or whatever, rather than what could last. But potentially with the square, if you face that energy and communicate more clearly what you want, you might find something fits. But the issue for you is there's a huge freedom energy here. And like your mind and how you communicates, I want new exciting things, I want change. It just may be as a group, and it may be across your whole life, or it might be where you are in your life at the moment. You might have done the whole family thing. And you might be now I want to find what's true to myself. I love my family, but I want to find what's true to myself. So it depends where you're up to, but there's definitely an energy here where if Uranus was also square Venus, when you've got Mercury square Venus, there is the will to change and freedom is so strong. You do have to work out what that means to you. So let's see with the personal predictions how it might play out. So we'll firstly get 3 for the Venus 5 square, and then we'll get 3 for each of the Mercury and another planet connections to Venus. So overall, how is this working out at the moment for you? The fast way. Your mind's probably incredibly fast. Your energy is probably incredibly fast. I just think ask yourself, Yeah, are you losing anything? You may not be. I don't want to be judgmental. Like I'm not. I mean, I'd be the last person. I'd be a hypocrite to be judgmental because I don't get in relationships myself. And as I say, maybe some of this is a message to me. I'm not sure. But equally, I do think that it depends on what you want from Venus as to whether this means it's working well for you or not. Secondly, we have home and family. Like, yeah, there's something about your childhood that's important here. But it might also be that you're trying to get to that fast and you kind of like jump into something enthusiastically and then go, no, 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 this is not right and move on because it's like you don't want to waste time. So you could be working against yourself with that. And abundance and prosperity. I think that's picking up if you're doing something with Venus around your career. And you might be doing sort of like you might be going with trends. That would actually work quite well. If you're operating with this sort of energy around trends, you'd actually do really well. Other than that, it might be that it's trying to say to you that you will, I mean, partly that sort of Nine of Pentacles, like if you know that you don't need it, then you can choose better. That's true. But I think it's also that maybe in other connections, you would also find material outcomes. What about Mercury and Venus? Particularly if Mercury is in square potentially to Venus. Changing direction. Yeah, it's because it causes you to change direction all the time. That's potentially the issue. Hurt feelings. And like, yeah, if somebody hurts your feelings, you're likely to do it and walk away. Or you could cause hurt feelings, as well, I guess, out of that. Proceed carefully. Yeah, so like maybe just slow down just a bit. Just a bit. Particularly when we're looking now over here at Mercury Uranus. Release, letting go. See, I think for you, it's kind of like, okay, that done, release, letting go. That's actually easy. Letting go is pretty easy for you. It's deciding you want to hang on is the issue. Renewed passion. Yeah, because something new comes through and it's exciting. I mean, maybe you're just at that stage in your life where you really don't want to commit a relationship. You just want to have fun, in which case that's fine. It's just if this continued on long term because it's a pattern you get into, then it might get in the way of finding someone if that's what you want long term. And vehicle transport, like I think that's like, yeah, you keep moving on, you keep moving on. It's the same pattern over and over. It's saying the same thing over and over. Okay, so the wild card will be interesting here. So we're just going to finish with a wild card from the Blue Dragonfly. I want you to just choose a number between 1 and 3 because depending on which you choose, that will be your final message for this reading. So pause if you need to because I'm about to deal out. So for number 1, Spirit has my back. That's good. For number 2, am I naive? Well, that's interesting. And for number 3, I am the key. Okay. All right. So if you chose number 1, Spirit has my back, superior help, reassurance, spirit guide, protection. Ultimately, whatever you're doing, you do have spiritual protection. So like if you did eventually want to slow down and find the right love, you could probably do it. And you're probably going to be protected in all of this. And there is some inspirational guidance that's coming of a kind of Mercurial and Uranian energy. So I think this may be more that this is a period in your life rather than a lifelong pattern that we're talking about. If you chose number 2, am I naive? Spiritual growth challenges need to grow up. I think this is particularly pointing to some pattern from your childhood that is important here. And it's sort of like, I think it's you trying not to be naive. It's like there's a hardened shell a bit here. And, that's fine if that's what you want to do. But otherwise, it's sort of understanding that it's not naive to give things a little bit longer and see, really work out what it is that you want. And if you chose number 3, I am the key, opportunity, inner solutions, new beginnings. It's saying you are the person who can decide around this. I think, again, it's probably suggesting this is more a short-term thing. You need to work out when you would want to slow down and do something, and you don't need to do it before then. Equally, your concept that you want to be true to yourself and completely self-sufficient so that you go into relationships, connections, whatever they might be, because of choice and preference rather than need is probably on point. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.